Hello, it's Servet Hassan. It's Sunday night, and this is Intuitive Inc., and we are live. We have another great guest tonight. I am so thrilled and honored to have Melissa Grabau with us. She not only is a PhD in clinical psychology, but she is a certified yoga teacher. So this is great because she takes both and integrates them, which is why I was fascinated by her. The reason I know her is because she contributed a chapter to Llewellyn's complete book of mindful living called Your Path to Mindful Eating, which I know we can all use, me especially. So, I mean, there are moments, even though I meditate every day, there are moments. And also, I love the name of your book too. You're the author of The Yoga of Food. So, Melissa, Let's bring you in here. You know, I'm dying to know, how did you start into this? Where did this begin?
Well, I became a psychologist or started training rather young in life, in my 20s. Oh. And, you know, in terms of, it's very stressful to be in school and to get the doctorate. And, you know, I was working with people way out of my comfort zone. My first job was with people who were being released from prison and had addiction histories. So it was a very stressful time. And my whole life I've just been interested in yoga. And I tried it a few times and it never really connected with me in college. And after my daughter was born, I was in my mid-30s and embarking on my career, you know, new mother, working in a prison at that time. I started doing yoga, and I was ready for it. And as I did it, I'm just fascinated and so, I guess, passionate is the word, about the mind-body connection. And I feel like a lot of psychology misses the boat. I love psychology. I think it's necessary, but we can get too caught up in words and making sense from our brain, and the body holds, you know, I will tell you there's a wonderful book out there for all your listeners called The Body Keeps the Score by a trauma expert named Bessel van der Kolk, and you can tell just by the title alone, the body keeps the score.
Wow.
And so he is a very, very well-known, he is very famous within my profession, and a researcher and, you know, a Harvard guy if you care about credentials. And, you know, he's coming out and saying, look, we have to integrate yoga and we have to integrate mindfulness and neurofeedback and all of these things to help trauma survivors work with this programming that is unconscious and devastating. And I'm sorry, I know I'm talking a lot,
but
okay. One of the things his book does is he uses science. So he gets an MRI and says, look, this is your brain on trauma. It works different than a healthy brain. So you're not crazy. You're
right.
not defective.
Right.
And, you know, he works with Vietnam vets, but he also works a lot with childhood survivors of child abuse. And I believe, you know, and this is maybe peculiar to me, and someone could vehemently disagree, but I believe all of us have been traumatized in some way on this planet. I don't know if you can watch the news or walk down the street without having some level of trauma in this world. I mean, it's a hard place to live.
Well, I agree.
In many ways.
I do agree with that. I do agree. I mean, I've done lectures with hundreds of people there, and I've said, you know, let me guess one thing right now. I bet no one here had the perfect childhood. And no,
exactly.
And if you did, raise your hand, because then, you know, that's an awesome thing. But no one ever does. Nobody.
Yeah, and sometimes what I find is the people who defend it the most vehemently have, you know, the most hidden ghosts.
Right.
And that's why they need to defend it so much, you know, and so that so much of therapy and yoga is beginning to peel away the defenses. And I've had a lot of clients, you know, who have severe trauma histories, and they get moved. The yoga is very, very hard for them, but very transformative, and they keep going back. And for many of them, Shavasana is the hardest pose, and that's the corpse pose, you know, just laying laying down on the ground and being vulnerable.
And being still. Quiet. Being quiet and still, right. Right. I mean, that's true. Well, science has proven now that our brain changes if we meditate. You know that. Exactly.
You know, another thing I tell clients is it's like going to the gym, and if you do reps on your arm, you'll build a bicep. Well, every time you meditate and you lose focus and pull the focus back to your breath, you're building myelin sheath in your brain.
You're
right. So, and myelin sheath is what helps the brain cells connect with one another.
Right.
So you're making your brain stronger, and particularly the frontal lobes, which help with the higher order thinking. So you don't go binge. You say, "Oh, I'm really stressed right now. I need to calm down."
Well, right. I think because it's also connecting the body with the mind as well, because when you meditate, because you really literally, they have proven that you fire and wire neurons differently when you start to meditate. And I'm a big believer in this. I've been meditating for 1,000 years now. But I'll say I tell people you don't have to do an hour in a pretzel pose that you can't get out of. 5 minutes a day even will change.
I think it's so helpful, Servette.
Yeah.
Like, don't make this another feat you have to accomplish with stress. You know what I mean?
Right. It's more work. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, think of it as a rest.
Right. I have people tell me, well, I don't have time to meditate. Of course. You know, that's the first thing you hear. And I said, would you tell me that about brushing your teeth? Would you say, well, I didn't brush my teeth today because I don't have time. You know, it should be just a natural, order of something you just do, like you take a shower, you brush your teeth, it should just be. You know
what it is, Servette, is we're so enculturated to do. And I think for many people, I know for me, it's so hard sometimes to pull back from the chore list and from the next task. And there's this fantasy that the next task will somehow release you, but it never does. There's always another task.
It doesn't end. So and the other thing I stress too is to please do it first thing in the morning, like before you do anything else. So that's
a good advice. It kind of sets the tone for the day.
Well, your brain is more plastic in the morning. And, if you've already had the cup of coffee, you've turned on the news, there's another disaster, there's another tragedy, there's another Trump, whatever. Sorry.
Believe me, we can talk the whole interview about that.
I'll keep politics out of it. But, you cannot go from that into meditation as easily. Your brain really is, your body and mind are most connected, because I associate the body, too, as well with your subconscious. It's in tune with what you really feel deep down. So
they call the gut the second brain now, and I believe maybe it's even the first brain.
Say that again.
Oh, they call the gut. G-U-T, your stomach, the second brain. Mm-hmm. And I was saying, for me, I think it may even be the first brain. We have more serotonin in our belly than we do in our brain.
Well, that's interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you do say in that chapter in Llewellyn's Complete Book of Mindful Living, The Pathway to Mindful Eating, I was reading that, and you said that food is both a form of communication with your body as well as a response to what your body communicates to you. It's a tool.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And I think that, habits save us. We develop habits and we get very efficient. Mm-hmm. But when we get into certain habits of responding to hunger, it can be very unfortunate, because if they aren't helpful habits, but kind of just unconscious blind habits, we can reinforce poor health and poor nutrition and just feel it's the way we are.
Right. Yeah, especially if it's been ingrained. It's such a microwave world now, just in life in general. You know, everything is hurry up, go here, do that, do this,
and you know what
I
find with myself? Well, not so much with myself anymore, but with my clients who are so busy. And my daughter, who's 14, many people resent the need to take care of their body with food. They'll go crimp their hair and get their nails done, and no aspersions about that. But, having to go to the farmer's market, having to go to the grocery store and chop the vegetable and cook the vegetable. And, I know for myself, sometimes I get so busy, it feels overwhelming. Well, but it's such important, it's just vital.
Is it a cultural thing that we're just so not
Well, it's
putting...
reinforced.
Yeah.
And speaking of, the evening news where we might see who, do you notice like every commercial in the evening news is for some sort of health? I mean, do you have erectile dysfunction, or are you constipated, or do you have reflux or fibromyalgia or this or that? And I think what's also enculturated, one, is that there's no time to cook and everything's fast. And second, we're sick. So it's just sort of expected. Well, yeah, of course we're sick.
Right.
I'm on this medication and that. And it's I think some of what happens in our culture is that we get, and this is what I call in that chapter, our conditioning. So what conditioning refers to is, I tell clients it's like a program. So your hard drive is what's downloaded in childhood, and it just downloads reams of information. Right. So we didn't study English if we're native-born Americans. We just know it because it was downloaded. Well, so was what people are like, what a mother does, what a nurture means, am I safe, am I unsafe, the world is a nice place, the world's an ugly place. All of this information is downloaded like a language, but so is the culture. So I grew up watching Gilligan's Island and the Brady Bunch and the Love Boat.
Oh, okay.
And that was all
Same.
downloaded.
Yeah.
And here I am today.
Well, and also our parents, my parents were born it was India, because there was no Pakistan. The separation had just started, and so they went to Pakistan, and I was born there. And then they went to London when I was a little girl. But they were born and raised to some degree there. They left very young, like in their teens, late teens, or but still, if I left any food on my plate, or God forbid I threw a piece of food away, I would have gotten hell and high water for that. You could not leave anything on your plate.
Oh, and it's interesting because I think I'm a little younger than you, but I grew up being told there are starving children in India.
Exactly.
So,
and those things stick with you, because even to this day, I mean, I'm pretty, my weight's just right. I mean, it's not high, not low. It's just, but, it's to this day, if I throw something away, I feel bad. I feel guilty.
I have a really hard time with it, and I don't think we're alone. And I think it's, I think some of it's, it must be a lot of childhood. Right. I know some people are very able to do it, but for me it is very hard. Even when it's gone bad, I kind of mourn a little bit.
And I was at a dinner party with, someone who's going to be my daughter's future boss at a big law firm in New York, actually the boss's boss's boss. And the wife had prepared very nice, like, appetizers types of things, and they were beautiful. It was really well done. And at the end of the evening, anything that was left that didn't get eaten, she tossed. I mean, I just saw her take like a whole bunch of grapes that were perfectly fine, but there was like the dinner was done, but that was her conditioning. Do you know? I mean, that was her.
Exactly. That makes me very sad, though. You just think of the homeless shelter down the block, right?
I know. She didn't even know that. You could tell she didn't know, and I certainly at that point in time could not say anything. But
but you're right. It is conditioning, and so it's important not to judge and just know that. We all live unconsciously, and I think meditating helps being more aware of some of these patterns. But Mm-hmm. Yeah, we just acted out.
Right.
I know I had a sister-in-law who and my mother would just be horrified because she'd just throw away pot roast and, prime rib was out the door, and it was just terrible.
Right. And they don't think about it. That's how they're conditioned. So a lot of it is that. And then on top of that, we get into this kind of unconscious thing with food. We don't even, I think it's stress, isn't it? I mean, when you get.
I think that's huge. And, the thing about stress, and I kind of allude to this in that piece I wrote for Llewellyn, is I think many of us talk about stress, but we don't know what we're talking about. And I know I was that way 10 years ago. Like, I'd be like, well, yeah, I'm stressed. Who isn't? And then I would just go along my merry way, and I wouldn't think about what does it mean. And now I know, oh, my God, I'm stressed. I feel my belly feels tight. I feel I can't breathe. There's a whole cacophony of hormones that are responding.
Right.
And that's where, the root of inflammation and, the whole body can't be healthy when it's in that mode.
Right.
It just,
I liked the way you defined it, and you talked about it because it was a time when you were a young psychologist, I think, or you just psychologist in training.
Yeah, I did write about that, didn't I? I was working in a hospital. Yeah,
exactly, and you don't realize that how stressed you really are, And
I think also what I said in there, and it was so true for me at that age, is urgency trumped self-care. Because I truly felt like I was very ambitious but insecure, and I wasn't sure, I didn't think I was good enough. I was terrified that I wasn't going to cut the mustard, and that was way before I had my doctorate or any license. And so, there was this really authoritarian male psychiatrist, and I was just running my ass off, excuse me if that's inappropriate language, but to keep up with the demand, so I cut them. And so I didn't care that I was stressed. I mean, stress, so what? I need to survive in this world. If I don't make it in my field, what am I going to do?
Well, and I heard Anderson Cooper talking about this the other day. He was talking about how I think it was something he did with Gloria Vanderbilt and his mother, and how he got where he is. And he said, he goes, food is just not important to me. He said, if I eat the exact same thing every day, I'm fine. It's like, he doesn't eat badly. He didn't even, he wasn't alluding to that.
I have friends like that.
Yeah, he just
and
doesn't
to me, they're a different species. But I have to say, I'm both jealous, because it would be a nice relief to not think about it, but I think they're also missing out on something.
Right. It wouldn't be passed. I don't know Anderson Cooper, so forgive me if Anderson Cooper, if you ever happen to listen to this someday. I don't know you, but it seemed like it's just not. It's almost like a frivolous second nature that he just he can forget to eat. I think. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Did I not have breakfast?
Yeah. And there are some. I think. I would guess maybe 10 or 15, maybe 20% of the population.
Or like that? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's well, maybe 10%. I don't know. We should do a poll.
Well, yeah, I'm sure there's quite a few, but I wouldn't know how many. I just don't, I can't. It seems to me, I don't know how, I get dizzy. Or, I get physically like I can't function if I haven't eaten.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
My mother-in-law actually is somebody who forgets to eat, and then she gets a headache. And then she's like, I have to eat.
Okay, well, your blood sugar just drops, right?
Yeah.
Okay, besides stress, you also talk about something called samskaras.
Mm-hmm. That's a fancy word for habits.
Yeah, okay.
But it's a beautiful word. And it goes deeper. It goes way deeper than that. It's out of yoga theory. Mm-hmm. And the metaphor I often use for people, well, you can either think of it as a garden that you've sown these seeds, and they begin to flower, and you have this garden. But another metaphor is like a track in a field that you've driven around and around. So these are like grooves in your mind, body, and I think in yoga philosophy, one might even go into past lives. And they're grooves or patterns that you've established that kind of hold you in there in the creation. They hold you in the past, and it makes sense to stay on this path because it's already driven into the groove. So one of the things, I think you had said earlier, neurons that wire together, fire together, sort of at a material level. You can think a samskara could express itself in the patterning of your brain neurons that have you perform in a different way, a certain way, or think in a certain way.
Right.
So the samskaras can hold you within their energetic, material, even karmic force, if that makes sense.
Right. Well, but we've proven, science has proven, not me and you, but science has proven that the brain is no longer hardwired, though. So we can rewire all of those patterns and grooves.
Exactly.
And I liked the other analogy you gave in there, which is almost like weeding a garden. Pulling the weeds out and cleaning it up, because really, I think what it is most people would rather be comfortable, or maybe just a tiny little miserable, like a little misery running through the back of their brain, than change. It's harder to change.
I think change takes great courage. I mean, I tell people sometimes, I wish we could hand you a gold medal, because maybe getting to that yoga class, it doesn't quite, correlate to the vet who won a battle at war. But I think these little changes take great courage, because essentially people are changing their sense of who they think they are. And that's the biggest risk. There's something in psychology, and you may have heard of this because it's kind of everywhere, but it's called the story we tell ourselves, or in psychology it's called the narrative.
Right. Exactly.
And we all have this narrative.
Mm-hmm.
A nice new agey book about it is The Four Agreements. And he talks a lot about our agreements, and it's another way of talking about the narrative we have of who we are, who others are, and what the world is. Even if I think I'm a big loser, I'm going to hold on to that really, really tightly. And really, if I'm entrenched in that story, I'm going to convince myself and you that, hey, I am a loser.
Right.
And it's hard to disengage from that.
It's easier than changing. Change is difficult, because you actually do have to change who you're being. You have to tell yourself a different story, a different narrative. You have to be something different in order to start that.
And you have to risk that maybe you won't be able to do it, or maybe nothing good will happen anyway. And I think for people, that's a really hard thing to. But what I talk about it like you put skin in the game. In a way, it's easier to resign to being a loser and then prove that you're right than say, okay, I'm going to not be a loser, and I'm going to show up at this party, and I'm going to really try. But what if nobody likes? What if I end up really failing?
It's a fear of failure. Yeah, exactly. What if I can't do it?
A fear of confirmation that we really are a loser.
Right. What if I can't really do it, right? And then...
Yeah.
Then what? I was wondering, is that Carolyn Miss's book you were referring to about the contracts that we make with ourselves?
No, it wasn't her book. It was The Four Agreements.
Don Miguel Ruiz.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, yeah. I just wanted to make that clear in case somebody that's listening wants to refer to it, or
Yeah, that's a great book. It's very small but deep.
Oh, I've read it
once, and then you need to read it again.
Yeah. In fact, it's one of those books that I pick up every year or so. Do you know? I mean, it's worth. And then he did one about I don't know if it's 4 agreements or not, but it's for love and relationships, which is fascinating too. So he's continued with other books and agreements, but it's so true, because we make agreements with each other, with ourselves.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Now, bringing change back to food, I think habits or some scars around food go very, very deep for people because of our self-belief, how we were conditioned, and the physiological experience both of stress and of hunger in relation to stress. So one of the things I really want us to get to is I think food is just such a deep, deep form of self-soothing. And the more, and I'm going to use a strong word that I hope is not offensive to people, but I believe it's true, the more we are addicted to sugar and to high carbohydrate, highly palatable, satiating, chemically engineered foods, the more that self-soothing gets wired into the nervous system and to the body itself. And then it can become this horrible domino effect of, see, I'm meant to be fat. I'm genetically programmed this way. And I don't mean to use fat in an ugly way, but that's how people think of themselves.
Right.
I mean, I think some people can have larger bodies and be very healthy and feel beautiful, but if you don't like it and it's something that feels negative, it's biologically driven, and your hunger is very, very real when you're addicted to those foods because they mess with your chemistry. So your insulin is high. Insulin makes your fat cells hungry. So your fat cells are saying, eat more, eat more, eat more. And you're driven to have it, but then you're going to interpret that, if you don't know about this stuff, as, well, I have no willpower. See, I just ate that whole thing in cookies.
Right.
And that it may be just, and this is where, I don't want to offend people if I'm using the word addiction too liberally, but I believe someone who has a lot of stress in their lives and then binges on a bag of Oreos, they are self-medicating literally, and if we could look at their brain, we would see the pleasure center light up, and then we would see I feel better now.
Exactly.
And so I feel very compassionate because I think many of us, and I'll tell you as a mother right now, I am just rabid to educate my daughter because, these kids are just used to just feasting on, these delights from Starbucks and just these sugar bombs. And it's so devastating to these young bodies. And if I can just rant a little bit longer,
go ahead.
I have Kaiser. And my daughter is very slim and her BMI is fine and she's very healthy. But I just wanted to get some blood work done on her just to look at her nutritional levels of iron and B12. Wanted to get one called the A1C, which is a measure of average of her glucose over 3 months, just to see, hey, what's going on here? And they refused because she's not overweight. And I was furious, so I appealed it. The higher levels refused it, and then it went to the state. And then we just got the blood work today, so I'm very happy about that. And I was trying to explain to the doctor, I said, I just want a baseline. I just want to see how she's doing because information is power.
Right. I agree.
But I had to fight like hell. And it really makes me angry because they know that diabetes is skyrocketing. And I'm pre-diabetic and have been since my mid-30s. And I was slim and I exercised and did not eat a lot of sugar. And I just wanted to see how and they would not do it because she's not overweight. And it's the most concrete way that our doctors, and some of them, are thinking about health. It bothers me.
Right. I know. I totally agree with you. I do. I mean, they're not paying attention to the effect those 5,000 calorie drinks at Starbucks are doing to them,
we are just wearing out our insulin.
Right.
Let alone the mental health. One of the things I've gotten really interested in recently is, because I'm a nutrition buff, is ketones. And so the ketones are when we're in a fat burning mode, so our body is running on fat for fuel rather than sugar. And the brain prefers ketones actually to sugar. And what's been interesting to me is I've shifted my diet, and I feel kind of like I have to do that just to not. Because even though I've handled my prediabetes. I'm somebody who really can't eat even corn or anything. My blood sugar just skyrockets. I just don't process it. But what I found is that shaky feeling you described, I don't get that anymore. Because I think my body's very adapted to burning fat for fuel. And there's a lot of research out there about it. It's actually, you can really help epileptics with that. They go on ketogenic diets. And I think some of our ADHD actually could be helped just with if their metabolism were more flexible, they could shift between burning sugar for fuel and fat for fuel. That the ability to attend might even be better, and because of the brain preferring ketones.
Right. Okay.
So that's my latest nutritional foray.
No, that's interesting. I'm really fascinated. But let's go back for a second to eating our feelings, or the comfort food, the hot. Yeah. What do you suggest?
It's what I'm talking about is a little different than eating our feelings. So it's not so much like I'm depressed because my boyfriend broke up with me, and I don't want to deal with that, so I'm just going to go eat. I mean, I mean, obviously that happens. But part of what I'm talking about is people feeling literal. It's feeling like hunger, but it's actually a stress response. That if we could get in their body and sort of measure hormones, the adrenaline would be high, the body would be tight,
right?
The shoulders would ache, the belly would be clenched.
I get it.
And I don't know if you I certainly, because I've struggled with eating disorder and emotional eating, I've had the experience of really just feeling like, oh God, I just want to eat something. I just want to soothe. And okay, I'll sit down for 5 minutes and I'll do some breathing. And oh my God, my shoulders are so tight. Oh my God. Oh my, and then, it's like, oh, okay, actually, you know what? I'm not hungry.
Right.
I'm okay.
You calm yourself, right? That's what.
Yeah. But you have to, for me, and I think for many of us, if we're just so used to holding that stress, it's scary to go inside, and it can actually, be painful. It can be painful to go into the tight belly and the clenched jaw. Mm-hmm. It can hurt and be kind of scary, and it takes courage. It's not just, I think a lot of people carry shame, like, oh, I shouldn't be so stressed, or I should meditate, but I don't. But, I think maybe people don't talk enough about how it's scary and takes courage. I know for me sometimes when I go to a yoga class, I'm like, oh my God, this is painful being in my body today. I don't like it here.
Right.
Does anybody, can I have somebody else?
Oh, yeah. And yeah, I know that feeling. Whenever I binge eat, it's usually because I'm unhappy in a situation, or I'm bored and I can't do anything else about it at the moment. Maybe I'm stuck in a job I didn't like. I'm talking about years ago, years and years ago. Mm-hmm. And I remember I had a temp job and I couldn't stand it, and all I did was eat all day. I mean, I just ate all day, and then finally, after 2 or 3 days of that, the job ended anyway. But I realized, oh my God, what was I doing? It was just
right.
Yeah,
it was just so unconscious. When I first started binging at 13, and that's around when my parents were divorcing, it was just a really bad time. I had no idea. I was just eating bowls of cereal, and I didn't feel bad about it. It was just what I did.
Right, and you don't even know you're doing it till you look down in the Haagen-Dazs carton, and
I know
it's all gone, and you're like, "Holy crap, where'd that go?"
And it is eating your feelings, and it is soothing you. I mean, so it has a soothing a lot. I mean, we're not crazy. We're doing it because it makes us feel better in the short term.
Absolutely.
It meets the need.
Right, exactly. Okay, I'm going to open the lines. If anyone wants to call in, we're live with Melissa Grabau, and she's fantastic. I'm thrilled to be talking to you. This is really interesting. The number is...
It's really fun.
Yeah, isn't it fun? 949-313-8880. If you have a question, a food question especially, I mean, this is the person to ask.
And if you have an issue, I love issues.
Okay.
We'll figure it out. We've got time.
And we all have issues.
Yeah.
We do. Yeah.
And we got to talk about them, you know.
I know.
I think talking about issues, you know, I think yoga is so healing because it forces oxygen and awareness into parts of the body. Well, words and talking about our feelings and our issues forces consciousness into neglected parts of our being. And that is what I just adore about therapy, is it kind of brings stories and words, language, to things that are either unconscious, or there's another word called preconscious. So we kind of know it's there, but we haven't really thought about it, and we maybe don't want to think about it. Oh, yeah, that.
Yeah, interesting.
But I don't want to think about that.
Right.
But, you know, if you bring language to it, and if you have a compassionate listener and questioner who can help you expand the parameters of it, then things can begin to shift. It's kind of like getting breath in to the body.
Right.
Things begin to move.
Right. Well, and, you know, and food, a lot of issues revolve around food, a lot. Now, speaking of that, Melissa, do you do private sessions with people?
Yeah, I don't do private yoga, but what I do, my day job is therapy. So I see around 6 people a day, average 30 a week. So I have a very busy practice.
Oh, good.
That's what I do.
Tell them how they can find you.
Well, I don't know if people would want, I don't really, I've got a wait list and everything, so I don't really have room, and I don't do long distance.
Okay.
But you can find me at theyogafood.net.
Okay.
And Melissa Gray, just Google Melissa Grabau, Sacramento.
Okay, so spell your last name, because that'd be too hard for Grabau.
Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry. G, grape, R, rancid, A, apple, B, boy, A, apple, U, umbrella, Grabau.
Okay, there you go. So, and then do you recommend, I definitely recommend that they get your book, right?
The Yoga Food, yes. And go to my website, theyogafood.net.
Great. Okay. So that's perfect. Now, do you do workshops at all? Are you?
Not recently. I'd certainly like to. I don't have anything in the works.
Okay.
I'm too busy with my day job.
Well, you also have a 14-year-old daughter, which I'm sure keeps you.
Yes.
You know, that's when she's off and running into college, which will be in a blink. Then you can start.
Don't remind me of that, right?
I know, it happens.
I was feeling sorry for myself running around the mall, which is the last place I want to be. I was thinking, well, this is a treasured time. And it was so funny because, you know, of course we had to get into fights about what was appropriate and what wasn't. And then, you know, she was like, I hate shopping with you. I should have brought Dad. And then we're standing in line, and this girl in front of us is like, Mom, you're terrible to shop with. And we were just hooting and laughing.
Isn't that funny? Been there, done that.
It is, talk about stress.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I know it's hard, but I'm going to give the number again in case, because you had some calls before the show started, and I was like,
oh, seriously? Hey, let everyone go. They're eating dinner.
Maybe, but it's 949-313-8880. I know there was a woman that called in from Chicago before the show started and went, this is the show, and I was like, yes, but not quite yet. So call back now.
And Chicago is like, they're 2 hours ahead of, where are you?
Yes, I'm in California.
Where are you?
I'm in California.
You're in California?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they're 2 hours ahead of us. I don't know. So
yeah.
Maybe they're not having dinner.
I don't know, but the line's open if that's the studio line, if you want to call in and ask. But I don't care. I've just had such a fun time talking to you. I could just do this for hours, you know?
Well, it's wonderful. Yeah, like mine. I'm glad we didn't have to argue about Trump. That would not have been pleasant.
No, that's okay. we won't go there. Okay, so let me ask you how. Now, I worked with gazillions of masters. Well, not gazillions, but I've worked with quite a few really great masters. And I remember going to a Zen Buddhist monk, and I've dealt with many different religions and spiritual paths. And anyway, in this particular one, they were old, very old. They had no electricity. They were in the middle of nowhere. And we had days where we weren't allowed to speak, that type of thing. But I do remember one thing. All of our meals, we had to remain silent. Now, for a family, I think, that's family time, and I think it's really good to have family time to talk. But I really got a lot out of that because I have to tell you something. You don't eat as fast, and you really enjoy your food because for the first time I was actually really tasting everything,
How inspiring. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm so glad you mentioned that because I think, I've certainly been exposed to mindful eating, and I'm guessing listeners have heard, we all talk about it. But, it's so nice to hear you talk about the benefits because, again, it's something so easy to forget.
Right. People don't know, and I do agree, if you have a family, you do want to spend time together talking about the day, and that's a good place to bring everybody together. But it's really nice to have a meal every once in a while where nobody says anything, but you're still together. It's interesting because you talk with your eyes, you talk with your, but you really enjoy the meal. I mean, I wouldn't do it all the time, but it really makes you see food and the experience differently.
And experience the actual food rather than just do the habit.
Right. Exactly.
But, one thing sort of picking up on what you said earlier in the program about if you only have 5 minutes to meditate 5 minutes. So, a nice practice might be for the first 2 or 3 bites, even if you're with people in the family, that you just really, bring some brain cells into your mouth and chew a little bit longer and taste a little bit more deeply than you might otherwise do. And that, I think, could build from there. In fact, I think I'll do that tonight.
Good. I mean, it was really helpful. The other thing, too, is if you don't want to do that with other people, it's really interesting to have a meal, like at least once a day, maybe it's breakfast or lunch, where you aren't with anybody else and you're just going to sit by yourself with your food. No TV, no cell phone, no laptop, just you and your food alone, the two of you, and just enjoy that meal by yourself with you can have nature. I don't think it matters if you're outside and you're listening to birds and whatever, but no stimulus.
Yes. Now, one of the things, I'll tell you some interesting things that clients have said to me over the years. Some of them, and particularly, interestingly enough, people who struggle with, want to phrase this in a nice way. Okay, I'll say the medical term, morbid obesity. But let me, who are very encumbered and unhealthy with weight. And they will tell me that they really don't like eating. And I've had several, more than one, say that vegetables taste very dirty and just gross. And it's almost like the engineered foods that, and then all of these people, I will tell you, have had severe trauma or have had trauma. I won't say severe, but there's been significant trauma and emotional invalidation, which means you don't feel what you feel, you don't know what you know.
Right.
So,
interesting.
But yes, and so what was it? Oh, I know that the engineered foods that people are used to, and these fast foods and these quick fixes of high carbohydrate, very palatable foods, that people's taste gets so distorted that like eating a salad would not taste good to them, or would not be something that they would want.
Right.
So it's for some people, this would be a really tall order. Because you've got to feel into some of these aversions. And I believe some of people who struggle with severe eating disorder, and I'm so glad that the DSM, which is the recipe book in my profession for diagnoses, but they now include binge eating disorder as an actual mental health issue, but which I think is good because now it can be treated. And these are people who just they binge all the time. They never diet.
Well, is it bulimia? Because they binge and then throw it up. It's different. They just binge, period, right?
You know, they're just living.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even like, you know, they're eating all day, but they're just consuming such vast calories that they are hugely large. And it's very, it's very painful because some of my most beautiful clients are just lovely, lovely people and so ensconced in this, and it's very, very hard to break. That's why I've come to think of this as an addiction. But there is this aversion and lack of ability to eat. They don't like eating, actually, or enjoy these foods that are more organic and real are aversive. Like, you know, seeing blood in a meat, or having a vegetable that, you know, sometimes when you're eating fresh salad, there could be a spider crawling on it, or you might have to pull. Yeah, it's just like it doesn't, the taste buds don't feel into the aliveness of food.
Right. You know, it sounds a lot like, too, with these binge eaters, it sounds like almost like alcoholics that binge drink.
Yes.
You know, it's an addiction. It's a disease. I
really believe it is.
Yeah, they don't. They've said to me, a few of them that I've worked with have said they don't even like it. They don't like doing it. They don't even like the taste of the alcohol. It's just. Yeah,
you just do it to feel normal.
Right.
In the cycle of addiction, when you first do it, it makes you feel good. Then as it escalates in the later stages of addiction, you do it. It doesn't make you feel good. You don't do it to get high. You do it to not withdraw. And I think my clients who are older and who no longer with the food will tell me, it doesn't make me feel good anymore. The thrill is gone, like of eating, an entire pizza. But I did it anyway last night.
Well, isn't it with any addiction, the receptors sort of get numb and then you need more? Like even people who you need like...
Very true.
Yeah, if you shop.
You need to keep upping the ante.
Right.
And I think with food, I tell you, when I watch the new combinations they've done, like, the peanut butter dipped Oreo that's topped with a cheesy sauce or, whatever, oh my gosh! I don't know if if anyone's listening who saw the Trevor Noah's spoof of Donald Trump's acceptance speech, but he made an analogy, like one part of it made him feel so good. It made him feel like he was eating this pizza that has like a pepperoni crust covered in cheese, and he said it was just so American. It was wonderful. He was being sarcastic.
I get it. Oh, of course, yeah, but I get it. And you see this stuff over and over and over again out there. You can't.
Oh, and they just keep trying to come up with new things to titillate the taste buds. And, what we need to do, and what is just so beautiful are these, I love going to farmers markets and looking in the eyes of people that now feel like friends as they hand me this gorgeous flower head of lettuce that's just bursting. Mm-hmm. Or, the food just is vibrant and it's been cultivated by people, not churned out by machines.
Yeah.
I have a hard time now even going to the grocery store and getting organic greens in a box because I can feel it. I know that I can feel that it lacks the aliveness.
Well, yeah, it doesn't taste real either.
Yeah.
I remember.
But I speak here, I want to be respectful. I know a lot of people just don't have time to get, I guess we can make time, but I know for some people it just feels very draconian or very out of their comfort zones with time and money to eat well. So I think, I really feel like it's important to be respectful of that, particularly people who are stuck in lower socioeconomic circumstances. Sometimes they don't even have a store nearby that's going to have anything decent, and that just breaks my heart.
Right. Well, we've got to change it. We
do. I love these movements of getting urban gardening going. I just think that's so inspirational.
Right. There's a group in San Francisco where I think it's called rooftop farming,
I've not heard of that,
Brooklyn.
But wow.
I think it's Brooklyn, New York or something. These people are fabulous. They've taken those rooftops that have nothing on them and they've built little farms. And it's all naturally grown organic food, and then they have these farmers markets in the middle of Brooklyn and in New York somewhere. You have to look into that. It's really fascinating, and they're great kids.
I will.
They're great kids.
I would. Yeah, my daughter's just entering high school, and she's going to be in a program that does mandatory volunteer work and kind of reaching out to the community. And I just think that would be such an amazing gift to offer Sacramento, is, ways to get people bringing real food into lower, people who don't have the money.
Right, exactly.
To get it.
I have a time for a quick question. If 949-313-8880. There's 3 or 4 people that were out there dying to talk to you. And anyway, because we're running out of time now. So the other thing I'm going to do then, Melissa, is just give them your website one more time. And go ahead.
Melissa Grabau, Grabau, at theyogafoods.net. Oh, I'm sorry. The website, I'm spacing it. The website is theyogaoffood.net. It's not my name. Or you can Google me, Melissa Grabau.
Right. Okay. And the book is called The Yoga of Food, which was that published by Llewellyn, or doesn't matter?
That was. And that title came from Llewellyn. I had a wonderful editor there.
Great.
So she,
was it Angela?
Yes.
She's been on the show.
Amazing.
She's been on the show. So.
Oh, has she? No, she's an amazing woman. She did totally, it was a dream to work with. She got what I needed to do, and she brought it to a new level.
Right. So she talked about, she did a chapter in the book as well. It's a fabulous book. So I'm also going to recommend that as well.
It's so comprehensive.
It is.
I'm pushing it with people.
Well, it's in its second printing, if you didn't know that.
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good to know.
Isn't that awesome?
That's wonderful.
Yes, and she wrote a chapter in there about grounding, and she really didn't want to do the show, and I made her. I said,
good. Hopefully she grounded first.
Yeah, I said it'll just be us talking, and it ended up just being us chatting, and it turned out great. So there's that book, and you're in that as well. So I'm going to push that as well. We're running out of time. So now, if there's one thing you could tell everybody out there about what we've been talking about, the most important part of it all, what would that be?
That would be go below the neck. However that might be, like, develop a practice, like you said, 5 minutes a day of meditation, 2 bites at the beginning of the meal, to really feel into your body, and to bring some loving awareness to this beautiful flesh that we inhabit. I mean, our bodies are just so amazing, and we relate to them as, and I know I do, and I'm growing out of this as I mature. We relate to them as objects that need to perform and look a certain way and do certain things, and it becomes a very unloving environment, and it's very bad for the body. Very
right.
It's not how we want to live. It's no way to live.
No.
Let me put it that way.
No. And our bodies are telling us something all the time. There's, it's pretty smart. Our bodies are smarter than we think, It knows what we need. And I think if your intuition is, if I need an egg, if I just have this craving for an egg, I know that there's something my body's trying to tell me. And I'll go have one. And then
And that's where the addiction circumvents that, and instead you crave the ice cream or the ding dong, and it's a real craving. But so any form of healing from addiction is that you have to, first of all, step away from the poison And then your body will start talking, but it takes some time, and the more you've been doing the addiction, the longer it takes. But I promise any listeners out there, if you do that work, if you disengage from the toxin, your body will start to come back to life.
Right.
And you will have those beautiful cravings for eggs and for, a piece of meat or a fresh salad, whatever it might be. Your body will start leading you.
Right. Well,
but the addiction gets in the way.
Well, you said it best. That's awesome. I agree with that. Anyway, I had a ton of fun. This was a great show, and
Me too. And thank you so much for inviting me and thinking of me. I really enjoyed talking about this. My favorite topic.
I did too, and it went in a flash. I was like, oh my God.
It did.
It's like almost an hour, and I was like, what happened? That's what happens when you're having fun talking to someone. It's just like talking to a girlfriend,
Yeah. So maybe we'll meet again, and maybe next time we'll have more callers.
We will. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, that was Melissa Grabau, and she was awesome. I really enjoyed that. She's so knowledgeable. I mean, she is a clinical psychologist and a yoga teacher as well, but she knows her stuff. I mean, awesome. And the book of yoga, not the book of yoga, Llewellyn's Complete Book of Mindful Living is a great book, and she does have a chapter in there. So anyway, thank you for tuning in today. I want you to know that you can check out my website as well. It's ServetHassan.com, ServetHassan.com. All of my books, including the latest that won the International Book Award last year, the year before, I'm not sure. Life in Transition is on there. I'm working on a new book called Intuitive Ink. It's the name of the show, about writing from your heart instead of from your head, and how to get that book out of your head into a computer, that type of thing. Also, I blog every day, Memos from My Higher Self, which is where I explore my own inner consciousness, and hopefully that will get you to explore your own, which is the only way we change. We only change when we shift consciousness from one state of being to another. So that kind of like prompts that on, and it's kind of like my personal inner consciousness diary, and it touches on all kinds of things. And I always get emails from people saying, oh my God, that's what I was dealing with the other day, and you helped me so much, because it's kind of what was on my mind as well. So it's interesting how that works, isn't it? That one consciousness is leading to somebody else's. Anyway, and if you've missed any of the past shows, they are on my YouTube channel, and that's just the Servet Hassan channel. And it's just my name, ServetHassan on YouTube. I'm also available for private sessions and spiritual counseling. You can go to my website and find out all about me. I am also going to be doing several workshops in September. We're going to start up again in Northern California, Mountain View, San Francisco, down here in Southern California as well. So please, just get on the website if you want a newsletter, and then you'll get dates and times for everything and anything I'm doing. And I am so glad that you tuned in today. I always end everything with be you to the full, because that's what's really beautiful. It's all about helping people discover, or excavating is how I like to put it, their true inner selves, because that's what makes your life really work. The magic happens when you tune into who you are, really who you are, the real you. So be you to the full. That's what's really beautiful. Tune in again next week. It's Intuitive Ink every Sunday night at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And bless y'all. Thank you.